Today we have a very special guest joining us, folks, from the state of Kentucky, an Air Force and Army veteran, Tony Cisney. Now, in the Army, he refueled helicopters. And in the Air Force, he was security police. He guarded nuclear weapons facilities, folks. He gets out and he goes to work for the state of Kentucky. He's working for the Office of Inspector General. He is working within the healthcare enforcement. What does he do? Well, he goes and checks in on healthcare facilities, on nursing homes, on doctors' offices, and he's a whistleblower. He also worked for the public defense as a public defense investigator for folks that were even on death row in the state of Kentucky. And then all of a sudden, he finds himself on the opposite end of the stick. He finds himself suffering from the very mishaps that he used to investigate as a whistleblower through the Department of Veterans Affairs. Oh, go figure, right? 2 times now, this man has suffered from VA medical malpractice and gross negligence. We're going to talk to him right now about this and how this program today could not only perhaps save the life of a veteran, but could further educate these veterans that are going through some seriously hard times. Folks, I receive hundreds of emails a month, and Tony is one of those. I am so tired of being tired. We can't yell this and scream this from the rooftops any louder. When will the Department of Veterans Affairs and the federal government that we all swore to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America, so help us God, when are they going to repay what we promised our country? And we don't ask for a lot. How about some care? That's not delayed or denied. And folks that are waiting on lists for so long that they end up passing away before they're seen by any doctor or clinician. Folks, this is completely out of hand. I'm so tired. I literally spend my days responding to emails and talking to broken veterans who are at the end of their rope. I'm their last resort. A lot of these folks, you want to talk about veteran suicide? A lot of this stuff is because of the help they cannot get from the Department of Veterans Affairs. And then when they do get the help that they need, there ends up being some sort of malpractice involved. And then when the said injured veteran goes and tries to file a claim for the negligence, they brush it under the rug, they hide it, and then they deny it. Folks, I'm tired of this, but we're going to hear from Tony right now in his own words on what's going on with him. And with that, Tony Cisney, how are you, sir?
I could sit here and say I'm doing great, but that would be a lie from the straight pits of hell. Unfortunately, like yourself, I deal with this not just during my waking hours. It's when I sleep. I can't stop thinking about it. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about it. And it's unfortunate that this is happening, and it shouldn't be happening. And I swear everything happens by the grace of God. I had never met you before. I never heard about you. And just a few days ago, I was going through some of my VA stuff because my VSO with the VA had dropped the ball and quit communicating with me. So I started looking online and I found you. And I started looking, and I swear everything that you've been through is almost identical to what I've been through and am going through. I can't make this stuff up. I can show you the medical records. So anybody can get on and say, oh yeah, this. No, everything that I'm telling you and I'm going to tell you can be backed up by the VA's own medical records. And like I said, everything happens for a reason. And I was really surprised when I got back in contact with you just yesterday. And now I was on when you called me today, none of this is scripted. I swear. I was on the phone with OIG Hot no more than 30 minutes ago, complaining that I had filed another OIG complaint for being a federal whistleblower, hadn't got any kind of response back yet. I told them that I was getting ready to be on a podcast. Bear in mind, this is my very first podcast I have ever done. Excuse me, I got stomach problem. I'm starting to burp. Sorry if I do that. And I told them, I said, I'm getting ready to do a podcast with Brian Talley, and I would like to be able to speak something positive about the response from the VA on the complaints that I've made. I said, but I've yet to get anything. And I said it again. Now, here's where it comes in interesting. I said, I'm getting ready to speak to Brian Talley on a podcast. My phone rang, and guess who it was? It was Brian Talley. I told now this is recorded through the VA, OIG, they're typing. I said, it's Brian Talley. I'm going to give you a call back. And here we are a few minutes later. If you could see, I'm getting chill bumps because everything happens for a reason. There is somebody, and I talk a lot. So Brian, I know you have to stop me, but when I get this going, it's coming out because it is what it is, what it is. You were talking about earlier. There is somebody, I guarantee you, that's watching this, is going to watch this. When you go to your mental health appointments and they ask you, are you thinking about hurting yourself or somebody else? I guarantee you're going to say, no, I'm not thinking about hurting myself. I kept saying that over and over and over until recently. You have no idea what I'm getting ready to say or show you. But, I suffered for military sexual trauma in the Army, through the Air Force, and then, issues with the Army, and the VA's tried to cover it up. Well, I never thought that, I would come to this point, but something that I started doing, and you have no idea what I'm getting ready to show you. This was going to be the solution to a temporary problem. And I'm going through therapy and everything else. And then I realized I am not going to let the VA in my life destroy my family's life because of stuff they're trying to cover up. And I kept those for a reason. Didn't know why. And I think it's because of what we're doing today. Nobody wants to hear what the veteran's going through because a lot of times they're going to tell you the truth, but then they don't want to know the truth. Even family members get tired of the problems that you suffer every single day. My wife, I can tell her when I've got a new problem, I start to say something, she'll roll her eyes because she is tired of it. Because this isn't what she signed up. She didn't sign up to have a veteran that's now broken because of the negligence of the VA. Nobody will help us. So only because of Brian Talley and what you did, I think is going to help. Oh, you've helped me. And it takes one veteran at a time. And now you're not alone. Everything you went through is almost, I swear, identical to what even the recliner I had sit in for years. My newest scar right here, C6, C7 spinal fusion. Before that, C3, C4. Now, bear in mind, both of these are surgeries that the VA has paid thousands of dollars to do surgery on a normal spine. And we'll get into that. Yeah, that's what started all this issue was a radiologist that said that I had a normal spine.
I appreciate you getting vulnerable with us fairly early here in the podcast.
Because I know someone needed to hear it. Somebody needed to hear that right off the bat that might stop and say, I don't need to listen to this. But that right there, those pills, that is that's the reason you're doing what you're doing, because so many veterans are happening because of stupid issues with the VA.
Well, I can tell you, unfortunately, I recognized at least half of those pills that I still on. I mean, when I was living my life in absolute hell in my chair, when I was being eaten eaten alive from the inside out for over 4 months. I mean, I was up to 40 pills a day out of, I don't know, 12, 13 different pill bottles that my wife was bringing to me every 4 to 6 hours in handfuls. That was basically my lifeline. That was going to get me to my next, feeding of pills and then more pills. And so today unfortunately I suffer some cognitive stuff because of it. I try to completely phase it out, but but today I'm doing a lot better, but I'm still taking, 12, 13, 14 pills a day. It's not 40. But still, unfortunately, the damage that was done to me is beyond permanent. And then yesterday, I have one of those, another one of those breakdown moments on just saying, God, like medical malpractice is a life sentence. I've got rheumatoid arthritis now to add to another one of my literally dozens of medical diagnoses stemming from the bone-eating staph infection that I had inside my body for 4 months that ate me alive. And people don't understand, like, being eaten alive is insane, especially when you can't see it. And so when you walk in and they look at you, they're like
me.
Oh,
there's nothing wrong with me. Look at me.
There's some pain pills. But I'm an incapacitated guy. My wife's like, hey, can you give him a blood test at least? It might save his life. All they needed to do was a simple blood test. And because of that denial and that negligence and that medical malpractice that will continue to ensue destroyed my financial future. It destroyed my body physically, mentally, emotionally, And like you said, that's all I think about every second, every minute, every hour of every single day. It's all I think about too, because I feel it every single day. I feel it every second in my neck, in my back, in my knees, in my wrists, in my fingers, all of the neurogenic type problems, my bladder, can't pee, all this stuff. And so I've had to make it a point to say, okay, damn it. You have already stole so much from me. You stole years from my life. You stole so much from me, but by God, I'm going to get up. I'm going to at least walk every single day, and I'm going to eat better every single day so I can try to get some of that back. I've got to recapture what we lost. And that's exactly what you're going through right now. And if anybody can understand, it would be me. Now, mine started on not getting a blood test to find out, hey, what does this guy have? They never did that. Yours started out by seeing the radiologist. Pick it up from there, Tony.
All this and everything, like I said, that happened for a reason. If they would have done what they supposed to have done then, we wouldn't have been here today and wouldn't be talking about these issues. But I was going for, bear in mind, like I said, I had been 2 branches of the military. I got out the last time in 2001. So I've been dealing with CNP's exams since 2001. So I was going for an increase on my back. Same thing as you. I got bone spurs throughout my back, degenerative arthritis, spinal canal stenosis, stuff that my wife, she's like, how do you know? Because if I'm breathing, I'm thinking about it. So what happened was, and the same thing about my speak, I had the exact same neurological things that you do. When I get fired up and start, I can't find the words. I stumble on my words. So I know exactly what you're saying. But
I have to carry notes. I got to show people this. Because of my cognitive, I have to write down words that I often use a lot on my podcast.
I'm going to turn my camera around so you can see. This is exactly.
I literally, it's gotten so bad that I have to write down stuff because when I'm going, I'm like, what's that word? What's that word? Wait, yeah, it's like, holy, dude. This happened when I was 38 years old. It's been 8.5 years, and this life sentence has never ended for me. And it's just going to continue to get worse. Like I found out yesterday, another diagnosis, another 3 pills a day to add to my regimen.
Excuse me.
And it's like, dude, like, how are we supposed to live like this? And then, dude, I think the reason why we're doing this podcast today is because, like, I just lost a good friend of mine 3 weeks ago to veterans on the 4th of July. He sent a message. And I've lost so many of these folks that I've been.
It's real. These This is real. I'm not showing you this as a prop. You had no idea that I was going to say this. I was going to show you this, but this was what I was going to do to get out of the problems that I was going through the VA. And guess what? Wrong.
Yeah, you know what? I actually did a podcast on all the pills that they send me, and it's like, I try not to. It's like, okay, let me try to like phase myself off some of these, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very difficult because my life forever changed in 2016, and it's just, and I'm slowly changing it back.
Right.
But it doesn't. It comes with the price tag. It makes me hurt more sometimes when I'm out walking, and I push and I push and I push because I'm like, ain't nobody gonna push me harder than anybody. No David Goggins, nobody. The only person that's gonna push me harder than me is me. Period. Right. The end. And there's nothing getting in that way. And so I have got to motivate myself to do things that are hard. I got to make myself uncomfortable every single freaking day, like you are. But look. This is so preventable. What's going on in the VA right now?
Okay. Like you said, this would have been so easy. Like I said, I was going for a increase for my back for a CNP. And luckily, with some of my experiences with my jobs, like I said, I was a criminal defense investigator with the Public Defender's Office for over 7 years. I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of cases. At one time, I covered 7 different counties, working with 14 attorneys by myself. And working, when I left the state, I was working on death row cases, actually defending people on death row. Also doing ineffective assistance of counsel, investigating our own attorneys and investigators. And then from there, I went to Office of Inspector General here in Kentucky. I did healthcare enforcement, which anybody can, all this stuff that I'm telling you is documented because I learned a long time ago as a criminal defense investigator, I'm not going to say anything, put anything in a report that I cannot provide documented solid proof by reports, by pictures, by recordings, because if I don't, it's my opinion. It's my word against theirs. But if I have documented proof, you would think something would be done. I found it real quick. Even as an investigator with Office Inspector General, things that I had found, which if you look online, you'll see everything. I've been in New York Times as far as, issues with my case. I didn't see what I saw. I would come back to the office and my reports would be changed. Luckily, I started taking pictures, which is online. And once I started finding out that stuff that I was reporting was not actually getting to where it needed to be, because in Kentucky, the Office of Inspector General is actually funded by CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid. So Medicare makes their money from the fines and penalties that OIG places like on these nursing homes. Well, when that gets swept under the rug, that means Medicare and Medicaid doesn't get the money, which turns out to be a federal fraud. Well, which I reported. Did no good. They swept under the rug. So I never thought that being a state whistleblower would turn into being a federal whistleblower. And all this is because I'll go back. I had to tell the backstory, so it just makes sense. Mm-hmm. I was gathering all my information to go to a CNP for an increase for my back. And I started pulling all my different records. Well, being a surveyor with OIG, I've looked through dozens and dozens of medical records. So I started doing a timeline and laying out all my diagnostic reports for my back. And I started going backwards. And I went back all the way to 2013. Now, bear in mind, this is 2019 that's on this date here. And the very first radiology report that I had here in Louisville was by a doctor, I say doctor loosely, and all this is documented through the VA, Donald Evans. Okay. Well, I found that the very first record that he did, when he did it on my spine, on the comments, normal. And I started looking, and he also did some other ones about my feet. Well, I've got scars on the top of both feet that the VA's done surgery on normal feet. Well, I started looking at the records after that, and the radiologist that reviewed MRIs, X-rays of the same things that he did commented on the X-ray or MRI that he reported on and said that these issues were on such and such X-ray on this date, which he said was normal. They never would call him out, but they would refer saying that those were present. So all I did was went back to the VA and said, look, I found this mistake. I wasn't mad. I wasn't angry. Not like I am now. And I said, there was a mistake done. I said, all I want is for another radiologist to read. I didn't even want them redone because I can't go back in time to 2013. So I just want them to read what's already there and put in a report, because I want accurate records in my VA records, because everybody knows when you go and complain about something, first thing they do is start looking at your diagnostic reports, and they go by what the radiologist said. Well, if you're in there complaining about your back, and the first thing they do is pull up that first one, 2013, and he says it's normal, in my mind, first thing they're going to say, you're lying. You're making it up. So what that does, that delays your care until you can get back in months and months later to get another X-ray or MRI saying, oh, that was wrong what he said. This is actually going on. He's telling the truth.
Okay, I want to stop you. I want to stop you right there so our folks are tracking, okay? Because this is important. Yes. So when did you get your initial X-ray or MRI from radiology to test your spine?
At the VA here in Louisville was 2013.
Okay. So 2013. And then when did you ask for another person to read it?
It would have been, this is dated 2019.
Okay. So basically 14, 15, 16, 17. So 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever happened in 2013 was read and you were given the results. And then 6 years later, you say, I need you to reread this because for what?
It's wrong. It doesn't match up with everybody else. All these other radiologists, no complaints whatsoever. But it only takes one radiologist to put something like a normal spine to dictate your treatment, because they might not even look at any of those other ones. They might just look at that first one and it says normal. And then you've got to spend months, years trying to get your treatment that you know you need. And like I said, all I wanted them to do was go back and have it redone, reread. And I went back.
I mean, is this because you're like, man, I'm feeling horrible, but the X-ray says I'm fine, right?
Exactly. Yeah, and like I said, I'd had numerous other ones since then, so I knew that was wrong, but I didn't know that he had put that in there at that time. I had only went by what all the other ones were saying, which was accurate. But when I started going back and looking at that one, I said, all I want is accurate records that dictates what the problem was. Because I had people, other providers, look at that one and it's like, well, your X-ray says you're fine. No, I wasn't fine. So, excuse me. So I had one unpleasant female looked at it and she said, well, I'll have to get back with you. So I went back to the VA, which I'm there all the time anyway, numerous appointments. So I went back a week or two later and she said, well, we looked into it and we're not going to have them reread. I said, excuse me. So we walk around to the side and the conversation starts getting a little heated and I started getting a little, I was advocating for myself, and someone came out from one of the offices and said, what's going on? And started talking, and he kind of had a look on his face like, man, that couldn't have happened. So he told his assistant, which was next door, go pull all of his diagnostic records. And as we're talking, he said, man, he's telling the truth. And he kind of gives him a look. And he said, this one's normal. And all these other ones tell exactly what the problem is. He said, okay, well, let me look into this. Really nice guy, super nice guy. So, okay, that's how the VA should have done it. So I went back a week or two later and I went down the hallway and he kind of gives me a look and he says, you see that on my desk? And I was like, yeah, it was a stack. I swear, this tall. He said, we pulled 5 5,000 of this radiologist's records, and he said, all I can tell you is that yours is not an isolated case.
So for 6 years, your spine would get worse and worse, and it would deteriorate to the point to where it is now, when you could have prevented.
Exactly. Would these things have happened? Probably, but the treatment leading up to I am now would have been different. You shouldn't have to go through months or years of pain and suffering until you get the treatment, because a radiologist, he was getting ready to retire. He had been that's another thing we're getting ready to get into. Apparently he had been there for years. He was getting ready to retire. And for them to pull 5,000 of his records and say that mine was not an isolated case, well, that's when I was told to go to the risk management office and file a tort claim.
When did you file that tort claim?
Put my glasses on so I can see. The date of my signature is 11/15/2019.
So there's okay, so you got an answer back. So you probably got an answer back sometime within that same year or early 2020.
Yes, I don't have like I said, all this happened so quick today. I have two different letters.
Yeah.
The first letter I got back was from I guess legal counsel in Washington, D.C. And this is so weird. They said because Mr. Evans was not a full-time employee with the VA. He was a contract radiologist, that the VA, despite what wrongdoings might have happened, I don't have word for word, but I have the letters. They said since he was not a full-time employee with the VA is not responsible for any mistakes he made. You have to contact the University of Louisville.
Yeah, and he probably wasn't even a VA employee. He was probably contracted through Louisville, through the college, to work at the VA, because that's how they, they're able to basically deflect all liabilities away from the VA and put it on the backs of these unidentified independent contractors, which is very similar to my case.
Right. And I didn't know that. Whenever I would get an x-ray, I didn't go up and find out, okay, is this radiologist, is he a full-time employee? No. You don't even see the radiologist. You go to the VA, they do the x-rays, MRIs, and a radiologist reads it, and that's what you go by. Because the VA doctors, they relied on what he said. So, when I got that letter, they said, well, you have to contact the University of Louisville. So I contacted the University of Louisville to say, unfortunately, now I got a letter back from their attorney, which also used to be an attorney for the FBI. I don't know if it was a scare tactic or what, but she told me that. They said, unfortunately, the x-rays or MRIs did not happen at the University of Louisville, so University of Louisville is not responsible for anything that Mr. Evans did.
So basically, it's just this merry-go-round. It's like it's always the veteran's fault. It's never our fault. We never take responsibility. We never have any accountability.
No,
we aren't transparent with the veterans that we have sworn to protect and serve, and there's never any justice, because it's your fault, because you are the problem, Mr. Veteran, and that's what I see and hear every single day.
Oh, and not just that. Luckily for me, I knew, and I had a feeling, since I had already been as a whistleblower with the state and found out what happened when you become a whistleblower, your wife is freaking hell afterwards. I put in my tort claim that I felt that there would be retaliation against me for being a federal whistleblower against a senior employee at the VA hospital, and I felt that there would be retaliation against any employee that gave me any kind of information regarding this. And that's kind of where this started, because that ended up happening not once but twice after I filed the tort claim against this VA employee.
So 2019, okay, is when all this stuff happens. It's 2024 now. Where are we at, Tony?
Well, not long after that, I had another CMP exam for mental health conditions related to my physical problems. Okay. When I went in, like I said, I've been doing CMP since 2001. There was a student that was in the room, and he started talking, and I got confused about what it was for, which was different than what I thought I was going to be there for. So the doctor came in the room, small room, and I started telling her about all the issues that I had with that radiologist, went into great detail. And, I had ER visits. I mean, radiations. I mean, all this stuff that's documented in my medical records. And, I went into great detail about, because I even had to go to the emergency room when I was in therapy talking about my medical problems, and I started having problems. So they sent me to the ER. I was having an anxiety attack because I was talking about what this radiologist did to lead up to all this. Well, when I got the CNP back, every single word that I said, zero. Not one word of it was in there. And the doctor even said she was present in the room during the exam, which threw up red flags. Now, bear in mind, I had been an OIG investigator. And one of the things that we would look at when we would go to doctor's offices, hospitals, nursing homes, is when the provider or the nurse or whatever is at the computer, if they get up from the computer and they take that key card, because if they don't, anybody can get in that computer. Well, he had to pull the student had to pull the card 2 different times and leave the room to go talk to her. And wait a minute, if she's in the room, why did he have to pull the card to go talk to her? And so when I got that report and I saw that everything that I said was omitted, I went back to him. I said, look, there is a huge problem here. I said, don't take my word for it. All you at the VA, all these cameras, I said, pull the key card logs and see where she was. Why did he have to pull his card to go to another place to talk to her if she's in the room, because she said she was in the room during the exam? Well, didn't hear anything back from it. Nothing. But I filed a complaint with the VA. It took me 2 years to get to a law judge. 2 years. I filed an appeal to speak to a judge. Did it. This was during COVID. And so I had my first hearing with a law judge, told her everything. Then it took a long time to get the results back. I went through a second law judge to review what the first law judge said. And both judges found that the VA was in the wrong for what they totally omitted. All the statements, everything that was in my medical records. So they said, okay, the VA is going to do another CNP exam for my mental health related to my medical problems. What did they do? They sent me back to the exact same unit, the exact same doctor to do it over again. I said, no. So they gave it to someone else. What they do? They gave it to her coworker across the hallway. Same hospital, same unit, everything. And so my VSO, he said, look, I understand. Just do it. You've been through all this. Just give her the benefit of the doubt. Hopefully she'll do the right thing. Guess what? She did the exact same thing as her coworker did. And at the time, I've been diagnosed for PTSD from at least 7 doctors, not nurse. I'm talking about psychiatrists, psychologists, at least 7 doctors inside the VA and at least 3 doctors outside the VA that diagnosed me with PTSD. Because remember, before, I was already a whistleblower against OIG state level. Well, they sent me out to have a independent medical exam to see if my PTSD was caused from what happened with OIG, which I said it didn't. It triggered it. Even the state medical examiner said, amongst other things, yes, PTSD. I'd been sent to University of Louisville to have a neuropsych exam because I've had some of the issues like you, problems with my speech, all these other things. Well, among other, one of the things that she got, PTSD. Now, then I go to this CNP and she says, no, he does not have PTSD. He doesn't have any of these things that all these other doctors have said he had, even though I was still and am still being diagnosed for chronic PTSD, maxed out on all my meds for chronic PTSD. And this doctor, the only thing she did was try to support what her coworker did because she had access to my CNP exam or when I spoke to the judge, she had that because it was videoed. So she knew exactly what I had said and had reported about her coworker. And instead of doing the right thing and just documenting what all these other providers, no, she says, no, I do not have PTSD. And, there's other issues that we can go, that'll take forever. But all this is going back to all they had to do to start, was that for the VA to have another radiologist read what this radiologist failed to put, none of this would have happened. It's a snowball effect.
Brother.
It's crazy.
In 2016, when I had a panic attack on the ER floor, when I was completely incapacitated with a bone-eating staph infection eating me from the inside out, all they needed to do was give me a freaking blood test. And because that didn't happen, it literally ruined my life. I'm angry. I'm angry every single day, but guess what? I can't show my anger.
Exactly. Because then they put that in there.
I've got a family. I've got a family. I've got kids. I've got to do the honorable thing. And what they did to me and what they've done to so many other veterans out there, including you, is they will absolutely break you down like the very M16 that we learned to take apart, to disassemble and assemble it in under 60 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
It will break you down, and they will strip your livelihood away from you. And they will do everything they can to work against you, against the good of the veteran, for doing everything right. And so when my case happened, I was done for years, and I was a strong man.
Oh, I know. I've seen your pictures.
And I was done. I didn't have anything. I was 99% done. I had 1% left to give. And that's when I said, golly, I've got to do something. And then everywhere I looked, the deck was stacked against me, as the deck is completely stacked against you. And literally, have to go in there and do the job of Congress. These members of Congress have had 74 years to fix the loophole that some veteran had to go in there and draft and write and lobby himself, not for a paycheck, but for the good of the country. What are these congressmen doing? Literally, we have a major problem. We have a major breakdown in the system. And I know it. And I've got documented proof of it, because they email me all the time, just like you did.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the time. I invite veterans on this podcast all the time. A lot of them, they don't want to come on. You want to know why? They're afraid. They're afraid of the very government they served.
Believe me, I've been there in the middle of it. I was part of it.
This is the United States, dude. You are a medical malpractice. You can't make this up. You worked for the Office of Inspector General in the state of Kentucky as a healthcare enforcement guy.
Yep.
You used to go in and do the right thing and say,
yep,
we've got negligence here in this nursing home. We've got medical malpractice occurring in this healthcare facility. And then you find yourself literally suffering from the same fate you used to call out as a whistleblower.
Like they said,
where are we going with this now?
Like they say, who's going to investigate the investigator? I was the investigator. At OIG, there is nobody above them that would go in, and these are the most vulnerable of our country, people that's in nursing homes. Everybody should be pissed. It doesn't matter, red, blue, I don't care what color you are. These are our grandparents. They're our parents. These people should be pissed that, if their parent or grandparent was in pain and OIG came and investigated and then nothing was done because of, money. And like I said, this stuff that I'm telling you would take for hours, but if you look online, but just like you, they try to change Kentucky state law because of what I did. And like I said, this is stuff that can't be made up. Unfortunately, it's the truth. But until more people like you speak up and do something about it, nobody is going to either hear about it, or especially with me, if they see if I was a OIG investigator and I had all this proof, I became a whistleblower, nothing was done. Do you think anybody else wants to say anything? No. I was blackballed. I couldn't get a job anywhere. Now, bear in mind, I guarded nuclear weapons for 4 years in the Air Force. And after this happened, I couldn't get a job watching security cameras at a gaming facility. Why? Because they said, wait a minute, you had all these jobs. Why did you leave OIG? And I was honest. And they said, I'm sorry, but we found somebody more qualified than you. Okay. So yeah,
that reminds me of something. When they find out that you're doing a good job at your job in the federal government, like, man, he's too good at what he does, we've got to replace him.
Mm-hmm.
There's been generals out there that have done a really good job generaling in our country. And they did too good of a job that they started to figure out a lot more intel was going on than what was being shared, and this and that, and could have prevented mass casualty type situations or protected troops on the ground, prevented ground wars, so on and so forth. Well, guess what? Man's relieved of his duty. Why? Because he was too good at his job. I see that all the time too. I see it all the time. And I also see a lot of PTSD being used against the veteran in the outside world when it comes to their jobs. Mm-hmm. I get a lot of that right now. Tally, I can't even, I got fired from my job. Not fired, but let go. Because they say I'm no longer qualified to do my job because I have to take a pill to help me with my post-traumatic stress. It doesn't make me any less of a man or any less of a woman. But because of that pill has a warning label on it, they say I can't do my job anymore. Who doesn't have some sort of traumatic type stress in their life? Everybody does. But because it's so well documented in the Department of Veterans Affairs, and it flows right through the federal conduit there, it's so easily accessible. So again, when it goes against the veteran, you're done. But if the veteran ever wants to switch places and go after the real troublemakers here, it's immediately stopped. You're gaslit and deny everything. Oh, and we're even going to crumple this up and we're going to toss it because it never happened.
Oh, believe me, been there, done that. And like I said, what happened to you happened for a reason.
I'm getting red right now because it's just, I hear it every single day. Like literally, I have to pack this stuff in and then I have to pack it out because it's become my life. These veterans, again, they're at the end of their rope. I was talking to a veteran just last night. He's been waiting 4 months for a back surgery. He says, Tally, I don't know if I can make it much longer. I'm in so much pain. I'm like,
exactly.
It's like, what's going on, man?
And it's like you have to fight to get something done. And they talk about the opioid crisis. Exactly. Because what happens when you're in so much pain and you can't do anything, you can't breathe without hurting, and you can't get the treatment, you're going to do something so you can freaking live. But if the VA would get off their ass and treat the veterans in a timely manner, it might not lead to being addicted to opioids. You might have to get on them for a short amount of time, but you wouldn't be on them for years until you can get the treatment to fix the problem that you obviously have. Because if they fix the problem a year or two after, and it was there 2 or 3 years before, all that time was unnecessary medical malpractice, and that's exactly what it is, because they wasn't treating the problem. All they were doing was treating the symptoms with a pill instead of doing something simple like you with a blood test. Something simple like
wife.
That's ridiculous.
No, we're not going to do that. A $19 blood test. And of course, I couldn't advocate for myself. I couldn't talk. Like you said, when you're in so much pain, like literally, dude, I had to get carried down from my chair in my car. Dude, like literally, I couldn't get out of bed and that's why I was stuck in a chair. Like I didn't even, I slid out tactically and had to straddle a bucket to pee in a bucket.
You're not alone.
The amount of pain, right? That folks, and we're Americans. We're not just Americans, we're veterans. And this is how we are getting treated. It's almost as if we just came up through the southern border, we'd get better treatment.
Oh, exactly. And people would believe us. And it's almost like you have to fight to get someone to believe what you're going through. Because like you said, looking at me and you now, there's nothing wrong with them. But take a little closer look. Oh, he does have 2 scars there. What's that from? Oh, well, let me tell you. But until you sit down and listen, it only takes one person. It took one person to sign your bill. And what happened? One person wrote his name and stuff started happening. It takes one person to get things done, to get things started. Just like this podcast. It's going to take one person to hear this, or it's going to take one person to say, look, you know what? My life's not over. I'm going to fight this. Because guess what? You're going to be in pain. Don't let me get this wrong. You're going to be in pain
forever. Yep.
But it depends on what. You can be in pain sitting down. You can be in pain standing up. You're going to be in pain. But if someone did something wrong to put you in that position or prolong that or increase that, they need to be held accountable. And for the VA to knowingly know that he screwed up and to pull 5,000 of his records, and what I put in there that with me, it wasn't a life-threatening condition that he misdiagnosed. But I put in there, I was afraid, and it's in writing. I was afraid that he misdiagnosed other veterans that might have died, not hundreds, but thousands, because of his negligence and malpractice. It's in writing. They cannot deny that. It is in writing. And do you think they did anything about it? Nope.
No, because they hold the power. And see, we no longer have, and maybe it's been this way forever. I mean, it probably has been this way forever, but now with social media and with
things have happened, just like today, I will tell you again, I could not have made this stuff up. This morning, I was so pissed off going through my stuff because I hadn't heard anything back. I called the OIG hotline and finally got through to somebody, and I was talking. And I swear, I mentioned your name twice. I said, I said it before earlier, in case somebody just got on here. I said, I spoke to Brian Talley, and I'm going to be on his podcast coming up soon. I would like to speak something positive about the VA, but I haven't heard anything back. And I started talking. She was typing as I was talking, so I know it's on the record. OIG hotline, Washington, D.C. And I said, once again, I'm getting ready to, and I said, I've never met you before whatsoever until just a couple of days ago. I said, I'm getting ready to be on a podcast with Brian Talley, and that, I swear you can pull it up, do the records. As soon as I said your name the second time, I got a call from you. And I said, this is actually Brian Talley. I'm going to call you back. And here we are, 30 minutes, an hour later? That doesn't happen by accident. That was, I don't care if you believe in God or not, but you need to. That was divine intervention, because this is going to save somebody's life. I know it is. I know it is, because I know how close. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Pain is real. Pain is real, man. Emotionally, mentally, physically. I mean,
because when you get to that point where you fought as hard as you think you can fight, but I'm going to tell you something. And I told you this when I was talking to you. I didn't know if you believed in God. I know you do now after I started watching your stuff. I prayed to God. I said, God, why did you put me in the places and put me through the things that I went through and followed you, did what you asked me to do? He said, as I'm sitting there talking to you, I swear this is what I heard God say. You did exactly what I asked you to do. It's not over.
Yeah, your story's not over yet.
And this, I swear, if you could see, I got chill bumps. This was not long ago, months ago. And I got to the point where, why did I go? I could have kept my mouth shut when I was working for the state. I would have been already retired, because when all this stuff happened, I already had, I think 12 years with the state when this happened back in 2015. Then I was going to buy back my military time. I would have already been retired from the state job if I would have kept my mouth shut, closed my eyes, and did what they wanted me to do. But I couldn't do that, because it wasn't just me. It was all those people that was in the nursing homes that couldn't do anything for themselves, just like the veterans now that maybe not speak up like me and you do, that won't speak up, who keeps their mouth shut, and now they're in a grave somewhere because of the negligence that the VA could have easily fixed. Easily. It wouldn't have cost them any more money to have someone read that x-ray. It would have probably cost them it would have been a whole lot cheaper for them. They hadn't paid me one single dime for this, but what they did then, it's going to cost them a whole lot more now. And because, like I said, this didn't just affect me. If they would have pulled his records, they said, man, you're the only person he's done this with. But for the VA, and I haven't mentioned that guy's name, which I won't unless I have to, 5,000 of his records they pulled. 5,000. And all they could tell me was mine was not an isolated case.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's that tell you?
It tells you that there's a ton of negligence that's going on within the VA system. And guys, look, this isn't a bash the VA podcast because
look, there is a lot of great doctors.
Yes.
Like I said, I've got 2 scars on my neck, C3, C4 spinal fusion, C6, C7. I've got scars on my feet. I wear $800 pair of shoes that the VA pays for because my feet are so screwed up that I am not bashing the VA.
Oh no, I'm
bashing the ones that has the control to do something right and covers it up. They're the ones, just like there's bad people everywhere, but it takes that one person that does something wrong that makes everyone else look bad or have a bad taste in their mouth. So no, the VA, no. I'm not saying
what I'm
bad
saying
whatsoever.
What I'm saying is that the way I approach it is like this, Tony.
I'm sorry, I'm upset. I'm sorry, I gotta calm down.
No, you're perfect. No, and this has nothing to even do with you. What I'm about to say is when I do these podcasts about the VA, I always want it to be known that this isn't an anti-VA podcast. This episode here is to draw awareness to the veterans out there that are suffering, that are getting delayed and denied care that is causing, irreparable damage, like perhaps what I had, or death. Resulting from, just again, medical negligence. But every single massive VA across this country, they all have different leadership. So depending on what hospital you go to, whatever, you may have really good care, or depending on another hospital, you may have really bad care. But again, I always say this because there are so many great clinicians and nurses out there that are in it for the good of the country.
That's the only reason I'm still alive.
Right. They're doing it because they literally care about veterans. Now, where the problem lies, it's not always in the VA hospital. You got to understand this. The problem lies in Washington at the Office of General Counsel.
Where I got my letter from. Yes,
right.
Exactly.
So
the same place you got your letter from.
I understand that clinicians can screw up. We all have bad days. We're humans. But the part that I have a problem with is that when you know you're screwing up, and then you continue to move on to further destroy a man's career, livelihood, family, and everything else that they've ever worked so hard for, times how many veterans over the last 74 years since this loophole has been in operation. And that right there is what I have a problem with, because that right there is where you're showing criminal intent and fraud. And this is what our country preaches to us: honor, courage, commitment. These are the hallmarks of a United States Marine. And then you get out, and then you go get the care, and you don't receive the honor, the courage, and commitment from a lot of the higher ups of the VA that are controlling when you're going to be seen and how you're going to be seen and what your records are and this and that, because those are the bureaucrats that are running the VA, not the actual clinicians themselves. They're just falling in line and doing what they're told. And so that's where the problem lies here. Now, we got a few minutes left here, Tony.
We could talk about this all day. I
want you to wrap this up. Yeah, I want you to wrap this up. Give us some final words here. And I know, look, give us some final words. Where does your case sit right now? What can people do to help? Give me some more information here over the next 5 minutes.
Okay, like I said, I had just I filed a complaint for retaliation against a federal whistleblower within the VA at the VA hospital. I hadn't heard anything back yet, so I'm waiting to hear something back from OIG. Hopefully, they're going to do an investigation. And then I'm also going to be filing a claim for moral injury, which a lot of people should look up, because I had to report, things that was going on which caused other issues and which was actually come out to be, moral injury. But everyone hates to complain and no one wants to complain, but you have to speak up for yourself. Because you're not alone. This is happening, like you said, all over the country. And something's got to be done. Like I said, it's not just one person. It's not all bad doctors, but it's coming from Washington, because the person at the VA hospital, she told me to do the tort claim. And when it went to Washington, that's when it came back and said no. So it wasn't at the local level at the VA hospital. It's when it went to Washington to the general counsel that they squashed it and used that loophole that, he was not a full-time employee of the VA, so the VA is not responsible.
Heard that one before.
So, like you said, with the new bill, a lot of people didn't know. I didn't know anything about it, but the VA knows what they're doing. They know that there's a problem, and it hasn't been fixed yet. But strength is in numbers. The stuff you're going through, believe me, I've got your back now. I can't do everything that you've done, but believe me, I've got the support and the documents that's going to add to it, so I'm going to need help. I don't know. I'm on disability. I don't work. Unfortunately, I think about this all day long. So I want to do something to carry on and add to what you've done, because they didn't sign your bill just haphazardly. There was truth behind it. There's truth behind what I'm saying. But until it gets documented and someone gets in, I'm sorry not to be political, but until someone gets in the White House is going to stick up for the veterans like they say they're going to, this is going to continue. But I got a feeling something's getting ready to change. Unfortunately, it's taken this long to happen, but something's going to change. And like I said, I appreciate what you've done, what you've went through. Everything you've went through has led up to what you're doing right now. And it's because you stuck with it and you didn't take this road out, because so many veterans are, because they are so fed up with not getting the treatment that they deserve, not listening to, not believed. Mm-hmm. That if anybody's listening, don't give up.
Yeah, you're right. So many veterans, that are suffering from traumatic type injuries, whether it's from childhood, if it's from combat, or whether it's just regular serving and just going through some very hard life hardships or life's obstacles can bring about, a lot of, remembrance of things. And oftentimes, it's not the actual trauma itself that the veterans are suffering from. They're suffering from a triggering event that,
and you never know. You never know what it's going to be at any time of the day.
But the triggering event is typically, from the veterans that at least reach out to me, are caused by going to the VA, whether they show up and their doctor's not there. And that's happened a lot, where the doctor just calls in sick and they don't call the veteran. They drove an hour to go to the VA and traffic and this and that.
Or a different one every 6 months. You got to repeat everything over all six.
Right. And it's very hard to start over again, because every doctor you see is in training from, a different university, because I've learned that too. The universities that go there, they train, they become doctors, and then they go to the civilian sector and they treat civilian patients. But the crazy thing is, in Congress, they'll get up there and they'll say that the VA has the best care in the country and they are the best hospitals in the country. But basically, the only people that are I had to have a renal exam the other day because my kidneys are, I have a lot of issues with that because of the bone-eating staph infection I had. Like I said, it was eating everything inside my body, my gut and my spine. And it did, like I said, I can't go on and just talk about all the damage. I could be here all day.
Exactly.
And what it's done to me. But I'm in there, and this process should only take about 15 minutes. But this time it took an hour. So I could barely walk when I got off that table because they had me in all these different areas and doing this. Why? Because they were teaching a college student how to do it. Again, so talk about being guinea pigs, the majority of the times when I do blood draws, there's one lady there who's been there forever. So I by name her, but before that, it was someone new every time. And I would have track marks down my arm because they couldn't find my veins. I'm like, dude, are you serious? I wonder how they treat the elderly when you really can't find their veins.
That's what I'm saying. And they would not speak up and say anything. And that's why I'm doing what I did. That's why, because it's the ones that can't or won't speak up for themselves. And guess what? They picked a couple of wrong people to screw with. And
like you said earlier, and I loved how you said the vulnerable, because the military and the veteran community, it is a vulnerable and at-risk community. Just is. We're patriotic. We're alphas. We are fighters. We are protectors. We're also an at-risk and vulnerable community. I mean, look at the homeless. Look at the drugs that are involved in our lives. Look at the substance abuse. Look at all these traps that veterans fall into is because of the life that they have lived during that service, maybe before the service, and then post-service, not getting the help that they absolutely, truly need to live the lives that they were intended to live. Tony, I want to have you back on the program.
This could go on.
And I know we got down and dirty today, and we jumped into a lot of different stuff, but I think we got some good conversation from it.
This is just the start. This is just the start.
Yeah, look, it's stuff that needs to be talked about. It's not fun to talk about. It's not really fun. Boring. It's really boring if you don't know anything about the VA.
This is not something that you want to talk about.
Right.
But it's the final. I mean, it's the final outcome if you don't talk about it.
And like I said, unfortunately, I mean, like I said, I saw the duloxetine in there. I saw the propranolol in there. I saw the clonazepam in there. I saw the
I didn't tell you what pills that was, but I swear, as I'm standing, I did not tell you what was in that bag. You've mentioned a few of them. I swear.
Oh, so in the nerve ones that I have to take, it's
a common. Pills are cheap. Pills are cheap.
Yeah,
that's an easy fix.
Yeah, I'm proud of myself that I'm down to 12 to 13, and I'm gonna have to pick up a few more now with this whole rheumatoid arthritis new diagnosis. I already knew I probably had it. Whatever. That's why they took 8 vials of blood from me the other day, and they did a full. But everything else, is fine with my blood and all that, except for the physical structure of my body's been absolutely destroyed. So again, that's just something I have to learn to live with. And, and I say, okay, well, I took my pill count and I cut it in half and then a little bit less. So like I said, 13 pills a day,
a handful every, believe me.
To me is I'm doing good, but we all have our flare ups in our moments. So, whether they're panic attacks, whatever. And it sucks. I have those. And I still do suffer from a lot of the pain and a lot of the anxiety that was brought on because of something that was done, excuse me, due to no fault of my own.
Exactly.
Due to no fault of your own. And these are veterans. I'm so many thousands that are going through this.
I can't wait to see. I'm sure I'm not going to really hear anything, but I guarantee you're going to hear from a lot of veterans that has heard this today. That, like I said, something's going to happen from this. Like I said, this is only the start. There's stuff that I hadn't even talked about on here. I'm not even talking about the brain tumor I just got diagnosed with. That's a whole nother thing. But hey, I'm here for a reason. You're still living for a reason. So
yeah. Amen, brother. And again, I am a man of sincere gratitude. I was almost a horrifying victim of this malpractice. And negligence, that 10 days is what my infectious disease doctor gave me after he saved my life after 4 months. and he could not believe that I lived 4 months with this.
It's because you're meant to do what you're doing right now.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
there's no other way around it. You're meant to do what you're doing right now. It wasn't your time to go, or you wouldn't be here.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And then and then just knowing the great family and great kids and the great structure.
But it can be taken away that fast.
Yes. So that's where I say I am a man of gratitude. It doesn't matter if I, can't use the bathroom or if I can't use other functions of my body. It doesn't matter that if I have to take 13 pills a day to make it through the day. It doesn't matter if I have to live in chronic pain. It doesn't matter because I'm here and I know I'm making a difference every single day. I'm continuing to build relationships with folks that I've never met and shook hands or hugged with, in my entire life, to help for the greater good, because we all have value to be added in this world. And the problem is that everybody is so, ego driven or this and that.
Yeah, because I didn't think when I saw you, I was like, okay, this guy isn't going to get back in contact with me. But I'm telling you, I had never talked to you before until I talked to you yesterday. You didn't. I'm sure. Like I said, I know you're bombarded with calls and emails and stuff.
It doesn't end. It doesn't end.
Yes, but we talked, and here we are today. So like you said, you could have easily said, man, I ain't got time to talk to this guy. He's full of shit. But you did.
You want to know why I didn't? Because I didn't have a Brian Talley when I needed a Brian Talley most. And
exactly.
So every single time I get an email, every single day, it always flows through my head that says, I need to return a call, because I know if they're reaching out to me, they're done with their congressman, they're done with the VA, they're done with the OIG, they probably got denied. If I don't reach them back, what if that leads them to go out and take their life? What if I was the last straw?
Yep.
What if I was the last straw and I didn't pick up that phone, or if I didn't return that email? And I can't help everybody. The first thing I say is, I'm not an attorney. I'm basically you.
You told me that.
You. Yeah.
You told me that.
Yeah, it's like I'm basically you that has been through the same stuff. Like, I don't know what I could do for you. I could be a friend. I can't do what you're trying to do for you, but I can help guide you, and I can give you some resources that I know are vetted, that are good.
And sometimes that's all it takes.
Exactly.
For you to listen and validate what they're going through, because you're going through it. You've been through it. You're still going through it.
Right. And that's all they want. They just want someone to freaking acknowledge them.
Exactly. As easy as that sounds, that's very easily overlooked and not done so many times.
Just acknowledge me. Don't ignore me. Don't make me feel like I'm the crazy one here when I'm looking at everything black and white. And it says that there's some problems here, and you're telling me that there's not. Again, you want to know why? Again,
I know. We can do this all 24/7. We could talk, and believe me.
Yeah.
Because everything that I've read about you is, like I said, I'm going through it. I guarantee you, there's thousands and thousands of other veterans that's going through this. I mean, I could even tell you when we were talking, had to do the neurological testing and stuff, because I could tell you started slurring so many words. It's hard to find some words. I do the exact same thing. But if you don't listen or you don't see it, you don't really catch it. But since I'm doing it, I saw you doing it. You didn't even tell me that.
I work hard at it, because that's another reason why I wanted to start this podcast, is because I was like, okay, like, so I need to.
It doesn't happen all the time.
I need to stay up. Yeah, I need to stay up with, like, speaking and all that other stuff, because I don't own my company anymore. So my relation to the outside community is a lot less than what it used to be. So I figured that this is a way that I can continue to talk and use a vocabulary. If not, I mean, like, forgetting things. I mean, dude,
yes,
I did something freaky the other day, and my wife was like, I left the stove on when I got done cooking. I've never done that shit before.
Oh, hey, believe me, you're not alone.
It's like, whoa, that dude.
And that's not normal. That wasn't you. That wasn't the normal you.
No. I'm a by the book, like, structured, like, okay, doom, like, it's, and I'm like, all right, Brian, sit down here. Let's and then again, a lot of it I know is the onset, of the pills and stuff like that, that will go in and it will begin to screw up you cognitively and your thought process, your thinking process, and all this other stuff that leads to other stuff. And then again, it just snowballs, like my spine, it snowballed into, this diagnosis and this diagnosis. And because of this, now this happened. And because that happened, this is now a factor, all for one day, one blood test in 2016.
All they had to do was have my freaking x-ray reread by, it wasn't going to change anything. Like I said, can't go back in time. All they had to do was read what happened in 2013 and it would have been done.
Yeah, you'd have been fixed and on, and you would have been working your job. And
I would have been happy.
But
I would have been happy.
And the crazy thing about your story is that you're a whistleblower, and you ended up getting whistleblowed for doing the right thing.
If you watch my video online, they actually said that there's a video that John Bow reported here in Louisville, Kentucky. And when they do the intro, they said, a Kentucky whistleblower, they said maybe that he doesn't even have a whistle now to blow.
Right.
That was so true. But watch that video because it's so true. And like I said, I was an OIG surveyor. So who's going to investigate the investigator? And so when I say there's cover up, there's cover up. There's no, I was threatened. There's stuff that we could go into. I know, but if you look online, just like I've watched your stuff online, like I said, this is stuff that I could not make up. I don't need to make up. Because like I said before, I learned way back when I was a defense investigator, I'm not going to say anything or put anything in a report that I do not have solid proof for. And that's everything that I've said today is backed up by my medical records, by reports, whatever. So
and you know what's unfortunate about that?
That even doesn't matter still. Even with all that, it doesn't always matter.
Because now, am I going to be able to play this on YouTube because we're talking about a federal issue? Like, again, the protect, like,
I know. When you, like I said, and I know when I was telling them, when I called OIG, she was typing, I mentioned your name and said I was going on a podcast. She was typing, and I said it twice. I'm going on a podcast to talk to Brian Talley, and I hope I can say something positive about the VA. She was typing, and you called at the exact same time. That was too weird. It couldn't happen any better. And I told him, I said, look, this is Brian Talley. I got to give you a call back. I guarantee you that's in OIG hotline records right now.
Well, I'm sure I've taken away a few of their luxury vacations every single year for the billions of dollars that they were saving, paying out rightful damage claims to veterans and their families that have suffered the fate of VA medical malpractice and gross negligence. So I feel as if I did my job, and you will continue to do yours, Tony. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Anytime. And if I can help anybody, like I said, I'm not you, but hey, I'm gonna climb on your shoulders because you started it. And like I said, I'll talk to anybody anytime. I don't, like you said, I'm not an attorney. I don't know what I can say or do. I only know what I've been through and what I'm continuing.
Just a friend. Just be a friend. That's it.
That's all it takes.
Just be a friend. Yeah. That's it.
It's so easy, but it's also so easy not to pick up that phone or answer that email. But it takes that one person to make a difference.
Absolutely, brother. Well, listen, you keep doing what you're doing. And, and again, we appreciate everything you've done, your service, your sacrifice and dedication to this nation and the veteran community.
Thank you.
Truly admirable.
Like I said, this was my very first podcast, but I enjoyed it. So hopefully, I know it's not going to be my last, but I'm glad if I had to start it, I'm glad I started with you.
That's what I always tell everybody. Look, if you don't like it, I don't play it. It's simple.
Don't watch it. Don't listen.
Yeah. Because everybody's really shy at first, and then hey, they just it's just a conversation, and it's no different than having a phone conversation, except for we get to share it with others. Again,
when it's the truth,
right? They want to get out.
It's not rehearsed. When it's the truth, it comes out. You don't have to look at notes because you live it. It's the truth. It's the truth today, tomorrow, 100 years from now.
and again, it's who we're reaching. We're reaching vulnerable folks that are going through everything that we've gone through, that are sitting in a room, that aren't leaving their house, but they're going to watch a podcast. And again, it's podcasts like these that say, holy crap, yep, and yep, I'm not crazy. Okay, let me see if I can begin to get my life back, like those guys have done, and stand up for the good of the country and fight for what's right. And that
I've been
there.
asking in my therapy psychology, I said, am I crazy? She said, no, you're not crazy. My neurologist, he said, you don't have dementia. So guess what? I'm not crazy. I don't have dementia. So there must be some truth to what I'm saying.
They want you to think you're crazy, though.
Exactly.
And that's where we're at. I mean, and that's the whole country. That's just not the VA.
Right. Right.
They want you to think
if what you're saying makes sense, oh, you're wrong.
Yeah.
But no, it's time for especially American veterans, to stand up and fight for what they fought for.
Yes.
And like I said, I think things are going to be changing. Not soon enough.
Good, man. That's good. We certainly deserve some good positive change in this country, and everybody deserves transparency. Everybody deserves justice, accountability, and timely care, when we need it the most. Tony, you have yourself a great day, sir. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will have you back
anytime.
soon.
Anytime.
Right.
Thank you, Brian.
Folks, there you have it. Another veteran that's going through some life struggles, that's been going through it for a very, very long time. And we didn't even really get into the meats and potatoes of this guy's issue, because we wanted to reach the hearts and minds of millions of veterans out there that are going through similar stages of their life, similar hardships, challenges, to just let you know that you're not alone out there. And the reason why I did this spontaneous one is because he agreed to come on with me, because I'm getting tired of so many. I literally have over 97 automated messages that I have in my text that are already pre-written, depending on what the veteran's going to tell me, because that's how fast I can respond to them. That's sad. And again, why they call me? I'm not a 501c3. I'm not a VSO. I'm not a veteran organization. I'm just a guy that has been destroyed the same way that they're getting destroyed, but stood up and fought back in an honorable way and made good positive change. And they can too, and you can too. You can too. I started with a pen and a piece of paper. Folks, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the program. It has never been easier to listen to this podcast. We have over 240 podcasts out there on so many different platforms. I know we will have one for you that you will love, enjoy, and connect with. And perhaps if you do, keep listening. Tell a friend, tell a colleague, tell a coworker, tell your neighbor, brother, sister, aunt, dad, father, mother. Hey, tell everybody. The Today with Tally podcast is out there to add some real life value to the lives of everyday people and tell the stories of America's finest men and women. We're on Facebook. We're on Spotify. We're on YouTube, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio. I do a lot of stuff on TikTok, some shorter stuff, a lot of clips that you may like. I'm on X, and unfortunately, with a lot of the other big time podcasts I've been doing have been getting taken down. So I had to start a Rumble account as well as a Truth social account. So we are on a lot of platforms. Some podcasts may be able to go on these, and some may not be able to go on these. So really, at the end of the day, you're going to get everything, but you may need to go to a couple of different platforms to get it all. So I recommend that you go like, share, and subscribe to all of those platforms that I just said. And also, if you say, I'm on none of those, Tally, I'm not on any of that. Okay, no problem. Go to briantally.com. briantally.com. go ahead and click Today with Tally podcast, and you're going to get all 240, now 241 shows right there. BrianTally.com. Boom, you've got it all right there. Folks, remember to stay inspired, stay encouraged, stay motivated, and always stay in the fight. Until next time for the Today with Tally podcast, this is Brian Tally. Good night. Semper Fi. God bless.
This is the Today with Tally podcast.